Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. I guess I really don't need to say Jim Howard since it shows up with our real names now in some cases here on YouTube. Okay, I'm gonna hope to make this real quick. Um I just read this story. I noticed it because of uh, the location, Kansas City, Missouri. It's my hometown. I'm in Fort Worth, Texas, and I haven't been in Kansas City area since 2000. But it's on CNN Money, and the title, I'll put a link to it below. I work 4 jobs and still struggling. It's about a guy in Kansas City, Missouri. He's 37 years old, and he brings home about 20,000 a year, and he's four working 4 jobs part time. I'll put the link, and you can read it. What I wanted to make some real quick comments here. I really feel sorry for someone like him, and there are millions of others. I I never had to deal with that sort of a problem. I always had a job, and I would quit a job on Friday and get a new job on Monday. Uh, but it's not because of me. I mean, I can't say that I was special or superior in any way. It was just the way the times were. I started out life as a welder, made good pay, had good benefits. Of course, those were union jobs. First, it was the Boilermakers Union, and I built railroad cars. And then it was United Auto Workers, and I worked at 2 different trucking companies. One was a Hess Carriage Company, and they made trucks that you see that haul soda pop and beer and those type of things to grocery stores and stuff like that. And then I worked for the KW Dart Truck Company. You probably heard of Dart 18-wheeler trucks or whatever, really nice trucks. But the company had 2 divisions that were there. One was the Kenworth trucks, and then I worked in the Dart truck division, and I worked in the body shop. And we made massive trucks, unbelievably big trucks. You may have seen movies or documentaries or something with these trucks that are, they'll be the little tiny person standing outside looking up at the trucks. The tires are 3 or 4 times taller than they are. And I worked in the body shop. Then later in life, I ended up working hospital security for 30 years. I had a couple times had my own business. I really wasn't a good. My wife and I had a tropical fish shop for 4 years. I started a security patrol service and had that for about a year. She insisted that I quit. That was in before the security thing really took off, but the wife didn't like me spending all my time signing up accounts during the daytime and patrolling all night. And I think she was right. I mean, for other reasons. Um, I got hired in as a career postal clerk by the post office. I quit them after a few months, and I quit them and was working the next day, or back welding or whatever. So it was times, and times have changed. Now about this article, the minimum wage should be much higher than what it is. I don't know. I mean, people that are smart need to. Well, we need to not elect any Republicans, but people need to. I would think it would be $10 an hour. That's even $10 an hour would be hard for a person to make it nowadays with the way things cost and everything. But I don't know. I think $10 an hour would be a decent minimum wage. Now this guy is working a couple of jobs. He's working like as a waiter, and the minimum. I always forget, that the minimum wage is I think $2. I think it said $2.13 an hour is a minimum wage. That's why it's important to tip. I have never agreed with. I think the minimum wage should be the minimum wage, but I can understand with the restaurant industry, they're used to paying somebody $2.13 an hour, and then hopefully the employee, gets some tips. And I can understand where, in this case, the Republicans are always saying if you pay a minimum wage, businesses are going to close, disaster, meteorites are going to strike the world, and I mean, which is a bunch of crap. But in this case, they're paying restaurants are paying $2.13 to their waiters and dishwashers and those type of people. So I can see, yeah, it would not be a good idea to say the minimum wage is $10 tomorrow, but it should be increased. And eventually, I don't think there should be a different minimum wage. I think the minimum wage ought to be the minimum wage. Now, if the minimum wage were $10 an hour for everybody, and like I said, you couldn't do that immediately, would some people who are waiters and servers or whatever at some nice restaurants, would they probably be making some really good money because of the tips? Yes, fine. Uh, so what? If you're not, if you don't think that's fair or that's too much money, go get a job being a waiter. But and I think even if the minimum wage were raised for restaurant workers or whatever, I think people should still tip. Uh, the other thing I wanted to comment on was, and I sort of hate, well, one thing we need to do is not elect any Republicans ever to Congress, ever to anything. They want to do away with it. They hate the minimum wage. They want to do away with the minimum wage. Republicans hate Medicare. They hate Social Security, uh, everything. And we don't need them. This is the wrong time for them. Maybe back in the 1800s, it would have been great to have Republicans in Congress, or maybe it would have been great to have a Republican uh, president. Maybe in 1860 might have been a good idea, but not now. They're out of touch. They're stupid. They're crazy. They're not accomplishing anything worthwhile. All they do is they've spent the last 6 years trying to destroy our economy just because they hate who the president is. They've spent 6 years, wasted 6 years that they should be having, you know, been trying to do things to help this gentleman and other people like him. The other thing, and I hate to mention it because people are going to jump on it and say, they're looking for people be looking for a way, Republicans be looking for a way to blame this guy who's working 4 jobs trying to make a living. And that's that he has a 4 years bachelor's degree from the University of Missouri at Kansas City. That's a good school. And it's in liberal arts. And I don't know how many people, I understand the idea of liberal, and I think that's I think that's part of our problem is that we are turning people out of schools that are not really educated the way they should be. And, they're not rounded in all subjects. They're not taught to think and to reason and to be able to look at stuff and to sort out and see what's true and what isn't true. We're turning out a bunch of people who are college graduates who are totally stupid. And it's because of the degrees that, uh, with today's job market, I'm sorry. And again, I understand the idea of liberal education, but getting a degree and some getting a degree in liberal arts, getting a degree in psychology, getting a degree in what else? Now there's a lot of jobs in security and law enforcement. But when I was went to a couple different community colleges, taking, law enforcement administration and what have you. But I saw an awful lot of people there. I don't want to. I'm way over. I weigh a lot more than I should weigh. 230 pounds. Let's just take this, one area, like because I'm thinking of one guy that I knew, a real nice guy. I don't know what he weighed, but he would not have fit. He was taking a 2-year degree in law enforcement in order to be a police officer, and I don't think he could have gotten behind the wheel of a police car. I don't think he would have fit. Now, of course, I guess I'm wrong because he drove, you know, to school, but uh, come on, people. Now, I worked a lot of security jobs where I made more than a police officer. There'd be police officers who would come in and then somehow they would find out and they couldn't believe that a security guard was making more than they were making. I worked at one hospital that after the town chief of police decided not to run anymore, or I forget the exact reason or what the exact reason, but he came to work, you know, at that hospital as a security guard. But and so somebody could be going through law enforcement and get a degree and not get into the police department and get a good job. There, one of the towns that I worked in or whatever, their police officers were leaving all the time to go to work as security guards at a company because the company paid so well. So, but these degrees, and now I went to when I got out of high school. When I went through high school, I went to a military Catholic high school. It was a 55C school when it came to ROTC, which was the step up from ROTC, where ROTC was, I don't know, I didn't go to that 2 or 3 times a week, a few hours a day or whatever as a class, and we were uh, in uniform all the time, and we just had it was just a lot more, but my plan was to go into the military. So in high school, all I thought about was getting into. I thought when I get out of high school, and I did. When I got out of high school, I went down to enlist, and I was 60 pounds under the minimum weight requirement. I didn't know they had a minimum weight requirement. What I totally forgot about was that I had hearing loss, pretty bad hearing loss. I still have it. Uh, and I just totally, that I wasn't, it's a good thing that I didn't get taken into the military when I went down. And then a few years later, they contacted me for selective service physical, and I went down for the required selective service physical. They had 200 of us stripped naked, and they wrote with a magic marker 1 to 200. That's how I know there was 200. And the doctor came over to me and said, "Have you been sick? Have you been in the hospital?" I said, "Oh." And then when we all lined up for the different stuff, the doctor went down the line. These big husky guys rejected because of football knee injury or whatever. I got a card 1A. God, so I went down to enlist. When I went down to the recruiter, he says, "Yeah, you're on my list. Everybody that's 1A, I'd have been contacting you." So I started filling out the paperwork, and I said, "Man, I'm a little pissed. I was down here, and I was." And he said, "Well, wait a minute, and he called and, oops, oh yeah, we didn't see his height and his weight. He's 141. I can't remember now. 1Y, unfit except in national emergencies or something or other." So then, my father, there was a book out, How to Make $1 Million in Real Estate. Nowadays, nobody would buy that book. Nobody would be happy Nowadays, if you want to sell a book, it had to be how to make $50 million in real estate or something. But my father had read that book, and he wanted me to go into, I didn't want to go into real estate. He said, so he paid my way for me to go to real estate school, and I graduated. And then he later saw that, so I went to welding school, and that was the start. I come back, got a job, and worked. But that's what's going on nowadays and I can't say it's bad, but people are getting going to school, and I sort of think it's forget English and math and all these other things. It's going to school for that little, okay, this will be a degree program in dog grooming. This will be a degree program in car washing. I mean, it's specialized. I can see the benefits of it, but we've got some problems. We need to change we need to make sure that no Republicans are ever elected. Uh, we need to change our system too, because times have changed, and we need to change our system. I'm not saying, that we need to institute communism or socialism. I have no problem, by the way, with socialism, but that's not, uh, we need to keep our basic form of government, but we need to make some changes to it so that so it's responsive to our needs, and so we're not getting screwed by the politicians or whatever. And there's a whole bunch of things I think we need to do, and maybe I'm wrong on a few of them. This is running much longer than I thought, but let me just say, we need to publicly finance, especially the House, elections. We cannot have this money deciding, things. We need to do that. Also, 2 years is too short nowadays for a House member. We need to make it longer. Two, what I think we should do, and it would solve a number of problems, is I forget what the number is in the Constitution, but one congressman for each, I don't know, let's say, I don't know what the number is exactly, 25,000 citizens. Let's make it one congressman for 50,000, or whatever it is, that we would cut the House from 535 or whatever it is to, 250, or, cut the House in half. And where this would help would be, it would perhaps help with this districting, gerrymandering, where because the districts would be larger. And let me just say on this subject or whatever, the reason when our Constitution was written, it was hard to get around, horse and buggy. You knew your area, but now we've got television, and we've got radio, and we've got cell phones, and we've got the internet, and we've got email, and you don't need. We could have a congressman who had to cover a little bit larger of of an area. Okay, I've got other things that I think but I better end this now because it's been 19 minutes, and who can stand 19 minutes of Jim Howard? Thank you very much for watching.